all. Hope you're doing well and you had a nice weekend. So what's happening right now with the risk appetite is that we, over Asia, well actually over the weekend, we actually fell quite heavy. The weekend markets were quite risk off. And we gapped a lot on Bitcoin and oil and indices. And it looks like, perhaps maybe we'll be turning. We can look at the risk arc and it gives us a big clue about direction. So if we're green, usually it's a good sign for risk on because the crowd are short and they've added short. Okay, if they do that, then we're going to be okay for risk appetite. And do note that we're fears phase because of the technical scores are quite rubbish, but that should pick up. All right. So that being said, the robot has opened up some risk off trades. But it's good that we've got the hourly ATR for stop loss because we kind of want to get out of those trades sooner rather than later. If we had a daily ATR, then those stops are going to be massive and it could go all the way down to our stop loss. I think it's okay if we have really wide stops, if we've got a risk on direction for the trades. But currently right now, is that we'll use the hourly ATR whether or not we're risk on or risk off, and it makes sense to bring the stops in a little bit closer. I'm still doing the thing where I'm looking to accumulate the trades and I'm going to get out a 1% profit. That's what I'm going to try and do this week, and if that's successful, that's 11 weeks of profit, which would be pretty amazing. So we've had a bit of a sort of a bumpy start. And we can look at the indices and I'll show you what's going on. And in fact, it might be easier just to go to Discord. Let's hide that maybe. Okay, so we can see, we'll start with gold. And also it's a good advert for the Discord as well because you can see what you can get. So for example, they shorted gold. We had this big move, and so they looked at that and thought, oh God, I'd better sell. And that action has push price. It acts as like a support. Okay, that's gold. Whether or not we'll continue, it's hard to say. We may cross over into the buy because we're only 52%. We could flip below 50% on this and we could really rally. So be careful if we do go below 50% because there'll be lots of trapped traders, okay, and there'll be lots of trapped bears, right? And they're going to probably hold on. So it's a little bit of a tricky one. We should be going up higher, but we'll have to wait and see. US 500, nothing to comment on there. Okay, we're just very sideways. They're holding short, and that's it. Okay, so if they hold, they're probably going to get punished. And the Dow, they've gone long, so they got punished. So that's fine. Okay, and it looks like they may sell it against its 21 moving average. It's possible. It's fairly likely if you look how close the SSI is to the moving average. If we do get the crossover, if this falls, it should cement the deal, and then they'll go, all right, I'm going to sell it, and then them selling it is going to push price higher. Right, so we are in an act of like a trap on the Dow Jones. Okay, so if we do have like an hourly bearish couple of hours, that should cause them to sell, and that'll be the intention. Because it's all about trapping liquidity. And just looking at DAX, it looks like they're going to short, and up we go. Okay, so there's that. So we're going to look like we're probably going to be risk on potentially, but we are in a headline environment where we can have some news buy and it can flip things. So we have to be really careful. So let's look at the RDP. And I bring that across, and then you can see the new bar, which is pretty cool. And this is 5.01. And what we got is a toggle, so we can toggle the days on or off, which is really cool. And say, for example, we've got BOJ looming, or let's say we've got the BOE looming, and you're not sure if you really want the robot to trade pound going into the BOE. It's not a bad idea because they do, the big fish, they do use the central bank risk events to push price up to stop loss clusters. We've seen it time and time again, especially around the pound and the BOE. They'll really pump price, flush everyone out, and then it will get reversed. So if you didn't want to trade the pound, you just toggle that. So that's awesome. So 5.01, really cool, and it's got a thing in it now where once it's traded that particular symbol, it doesn't automatically rearm. So that's okay. And the reason for it to automatically rearm is because the Google Sheet is constantly pumping signals which this EA is reading. So as long as the sheet says buy or sell, it will keep trying to buy or sell. Whether or not that's a good idea, probably not, unless you're scalping, and you could just like scalp lots of like small profit as it rearms. But currently at the moment, once it's traded the pair, we're out. So like I say, what we need to do, come to the expert list, come to the properties. Yeah, we kind of want to hide that URL because that's obviously top secret. What we need to do, yeah, for now, keep the hourly. In fact, keep it default pretty much. If we have the hourly ATR, it will mean that we get out a bit quicker because we don't want to be fighting those fundamental flows. If we've got risk off trades and then we go risk on, we're going to be caught in the dust with some pretty significant drawdown. So I think the hourly is fine, and I'm probably going to stick to that, I guess. The idea for me is that I'm going to accumulate trades, but I don't want to accumulate bad trades, right? And that's the key. You can accumulate good ones, but you don't accumulate counter fundamental trades, you know, like the risk on. For example, I'll show you. This is what I mean. So let's cancel that. So what it's going to do, it's going to get us stopped out of the Euro Kiwi. See, for example, that would be if we were to buy it, which it has done, it's saying that we're going to be risk off, but we can see from the indices that we're going to be risk on. So that's going to be a rubbish trade that we need to get rid of sooner rather than later. And once we've got rid of it, then it won't trade it for the rest of the day. So that's cool. So we'll have to wait and see how we go. It's just one of those things where we're having turnarounds in risk appetite, where one moment we can be risk on, then we have like a big news bite from the White House, and then we could go risk off. So you just have to be careful and know where your exits are as well. And we'll just have to see how we go. Maybe it's going to be good. It should be. The last 10 weeks have been fantastic, so it should just continue. And it was just a little bit unfortunate with the gap that we had following on from the US-Iran because JD Vance said there wasn't any follow through on the talks. But at least they're talking, and that's the key. The delegations are they are having their one-to-ones, and they're coming to a table and they're discussing. So that's good, okay, because we're in a better place than we were a week, 2 weeks ago, and that in itself is going to be quite risk on. So that's the video today, and I wish you a good day, and I'll speak to you guys soon.